I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senator Ted Cruz questioned Brian P. McKeon, a U.S. Deputy Secretary of State, about a new disinformation board set up at the Department of Homeland Security. Cruz probed McKeon on the activities and goals of the board, which he expressed worry over. Republican critics of the board have voiced concerns that it will target American citizens, particularly those on the right. Let's listen in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McKeon, welcome.
Good morning.
I want to ask you about the State Department's ongoing efforts to finalize a nuclear deal with Iran. Last week in this committee, I discussed the IRGC terrorism sanctions with Secretary Blinken. And he said that dismantling some sanctions would be worth it because the deal has benefits that will meaningfully roll back Iran's nuclear program. I want to ask you about those benefits because I don't think that's true, and I don't think you do either. Since President Biden was elected, Iran has made enormous, unprecedented progress on its nuclear program, including enriching uranium to 60%, deploying advanced centrifuges, and acquiring significant knowledge. Now, the Biden administration has a secret assessment that says there is a point after which the nuclear progress would make the deal meaningless. Secretary Blinken has referenced that point in public numerous times since last year, but you have never revealed to this committee what that point is publicly. Administration officials have told this committee in classified briefings what your assessment is, but again, it has been kept from the public. This weekend, Chairman Menendez said, quote, "We are told by the administration that if the negotiations didn't conclude by the end of February, that in fact, the time that would be lost and what we would gain would be of very little importance or value to us. Now it's the end of April. So if the end of February wasn't going to buy us what we need, certainly the end of April is not there." That is entirely consistent with everything I have heard and seen. So my question is, does the State Department intend to make your internal assessment public?
Senator Cruz, I think that's probably an assessment of the Intelligence Committee that's classified, so my answer to you right now without knowing more would be not in the near term, but this is not a topic I work on, so I'll have to take that question back.
So if the State Department has an assessment that says the deal's benefits became meaningless months ago, why is the State Department still negotiating?
Senator, as I said, I don't work on this issue. Literally, I'm not in any briefings. I'm not up to speed on what's happening. I don't have a different answer than the Secretary would have given you last week.
Well, I think the State Department needs to come clean with the American people about an assessment that impacts the safety and security of every American and the safety and security of our allies. Let's turn to a different topic. I want to ask you about the new so-called Disinformation Governance Board that the Biden administration recently announced. The board is an interagency team assembled under the Department of Homeland Security, allegedly to combat disinformation. And it shows every sign of potentially becoming an Orwellian tool to target Americans whom Democrats consider to be their political opponents. In defense of the board, Biden administrations have rushed out to say, no, you don't understand. The board is not going to target Americans. It's about targeting foreign disinformation. I got to say, I was surprised to hear that, and I expect many members of this committee were equally surprised. And that's because the U.S. government already has an interagency organization built to counter foreign disinformation. It's the Global Engagement Center at the Department of State. Its mission is, quote, to direct, lead, synchronize, integrate, and coordinate efforts of the federal government to recognize, understand, expose, and counter foreign state and non-state propaganda and disinformation. The GEC was created and has been consistently supported by bipartisan legislation that has come out of this committee. Last year, Senators Portman and Murphy filed a new authorization for $150 million for the GEC again to, quote, counter foreign state and non-state sponsored propaganda and disinformation. it would seem that either the Biden administration has created a completely redundant organization to target foreign disinformation, duplicating and undermining this committee's work over years, or they're not being honest about what the new board is designed to do and that it's actually designed to target Americans. And so I want to ask you, how do you understand the GEC's mission to differ from the new Disinformation Board, and what activities currently being conducted by the GEC would state contemplate ceding to this newly created board?
The GEC, Senator, is outward-facing, engaged in exposing to foreign publics the disinformation that we see our adversaries putting out there, whether it's the Russian or Chinese or some other entity. I'm not familiar with this new DHS entity. I just saw the headline in the paper this morning. I had not heard of it, so I don't know how
The
it would
state
differ.
was not consulted, even though ostensibly what this new agency does is something already assigned to state, and there's already an effort stood up to do this?
I don't know if the folks at the GEC or in our public diplomacy, public affairs office were consulted. I'll have to find out
But you
and
were
get
not
back to you.
consulted.
I was not, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr.